guys. This is your honorable sensei. And we also have our vicious, delicious, nutritious scumbag.
Well, good evening.
And this is the longturnlarry podcast, where we talk about magic things.
And magic things.
Magical people like you listening to us.
Oh, I hope you enjoyed your time.
I hope you do. Because today we're talking about
Green.
Everyone's
favorite stupid color.
It's one of my favorites.
Agreed. It's up there. It's like a dog. It's a very good thing.
So we want to give like sort of a basis of ramp and card draw. So we're gonna get into it. We want you to know exactly what type of cards need to go where, because sometimes we just have like things in places where they don't belong, and I think you want to take longer turns.
And
build better decks.
Why wouldn't you? So this is going to be a multi-parter. Don't get me wrong, it's not going to be a multi-part episode, but we're going to be going over like do's and don'ts. Not necessarily best on slot, but good idea. And if you did this, why'd you do that?
Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why?
We were going to spread this over as generalized concepts, but realized we had to break it down even by color. So to give you guys true breakdowns.
Yeah, we're going to do all this as a very like, ramp. And it's just like, colors ramp differently.
Yes, they do. And then also too, sneak peek. We're having some freaky tribals coming up.
Freaky tribals.
Oh yeah, we're talking about CDH Manatee. Just wait.
Oh yeah, for all my TFT players, we're going to be talking about Earth Tribal.
That's right, Earth Tribal, baby. Corky's the commander.
All right, let's get into it. So, green is the best color to start off with because not only does it have the best ramp options.
Yeah, without question.
It actually got some pretty decent card draw options as well. That's why some people call it the best color.
I'd say mono, it's up there. We'll do a rank or a tier system one of these days, but I think green's top tier. I think it is.
I think green is the most flexible color. I don't think it's the best.
Yeah, no, I'll give you that. I just feel like I feel like it's beginner friendly. I feel like
it's very.
Green is super beginner friendly.
All right, so ramp. So most people who are playing green are playing creature decks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first card we put in there, you're gonna put in your Llanowar elves and your Arbor elves and your big stupid rampy creatures. But sometimes we don't put the right type of ramp in our creature decks, which is sort of weird.
Yeah, exactly. You have to poise each deck specifically. Like if you're a creature deck, some of these other options we talk about make way more sense. But if you were heavier on, like big creatures matter, so you got like not as many. It's like, there's different interactions. And so it's not like this isn't a one size fits all. Like, disclosure, this isn't a one size fits all equation.
Right. So let's start off with our friendly Llanowar elf. He's the basic taps for a green.
Yeah.
1 mana. Pretty efficient. Probably one of the best. There are also a whole bunch of elves that do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have our Birds of Paradise. This is for you multicolored players out there. You need that early mana fixing. You're going to run your Birds of Paradise.
Arguably still the best mana dork in the game. Flying, any color, still a 1-drop. Incredible.
So, Arbor Elf is a weird type of dork, right?
Mm-hmm. single green 1/1 elf druid with tap, untap target forest.
Right. So
technically a Llanowar.
Yeah, he's fine usually as a dork, but sometimes if you're the type of deck that, let's say, likes to put enchantments on lands or forests, he sort of dips into double duty. So if you're more of an enchantment deck, you might want to look into like Arbor Elf as opposed to like a Llanowar Elf specifically.
Yeah, great example of like a 1-to-1. Also, spoiler for a little bit later in the episode. Arbor Elf definitely has some neat abilities. It's a little niche because like it doesn't really extend further out from that.
Right.
Because there's not really many forests that are utility lands. But what I was thinking, the first thought that came to my head is you have like a Yavi Maya out though, and then that whole equation changes. You put a Yavi Maya, and now all of your utility lands, Arbor Elf can untap.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes I see Arbor Elf in like 3-color decks and 4-color decks, and I'm just like, are you sure you could play Arbor Elf?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you specifically need a forest.
Yeah.
You can't run like a green-black land, like any of the pain lands or some of the fast lands or the slow lands. Arbor Elf doesn't do anything for you.
Yeah, he can actually be a hindrance, which is why we're here.
Right.
Because we want long turns, but we don't want long turns because
you're scratching your head.
Yeah.
A lot of green decks or run Lotus Cobra.
Yeah, here's the first hot take. Like, definite.
You should probably not be running Lotus Cobra if you're not particularly like a land deck, or if you can't generate more than 2 lands or 2 landfall drops consistently, because it's a 2 mana and landfall. You get a mana of any color, right? If you're on the lower end, like if you're a very fast elf deck, do you really want to play Lotus Cobra? Are you really hitting that many land drops?
And even then, what impact is a singular land compared to like a landfall? I'm going to be dropping 2, 3, 4 lands, depending.
Yeah, if you need another color, you might as well run Birds of Paradise.
Yeah, exactly.
As opposed to
Lotus
Lotus
Cobra. It would serve you better because birds will be repeatable, while Lotus Cobra, you can miss land drops, and now Lotus Cobra is almost useless because if you're not, like you said, a landfall or a land matters deck, where's the benefit?
Yeah. Every time that
especially
I see
mono
Lotus Cobra played efficiently, like you're sort of hitting that storm. I'm playing multiple lands. I've gotten like 5 mana off Lotus Cobra. The same thing goes to like Tireless Provisioner. That's the same thing. He could create you either a food or a treasure token. But he's 3 mana. Are you really wanting to take your turn 3 and you might not hit lands?
Yeah, that's gonna be the next topic here we're gonna be talking about is timing, because timing, I think, is what's key. What makes a lot of these either work or just be like the subpar choice, right? Like you could have picked something way better. So I'll give a one that I think would better suit most decks where Lotus Cobra kind of falls is Sakura Tribe Elder.
Steve!
Yep, good old Snake Steve. Like, sacrifice Steve, search your library for a basic land, put it in a battlefield tab, and there you go. Just beautiful.
Please do not do Steve at sorcery speed.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you need the landfall trigger that turn, Steve's a blocker.
Yep. He waits until the person right before you's turns end, and then, hey, in response to that,
kill this snake man.
Steve shall die. Like, great card. Again, basic land. This could go in any color. But it's not one to where if I saw it in your mono green deck, I'm not mad. I'm not mad that you're running Sakura Tribe Elder. It's still great. And like you said, it's a blocker with going and hunting for a land.
Right.
No complaints.
With the ones that we mentioned before, they give you mana when they tap, right? But we all know creatures are sort of fickle. Board wipes are prevalent. So sometimes getting the land specifically is almost considered like permanent ramp.
Yeah.
Where creatures can die.
Yeah, they may give you that every turn, every other. There's untapped shenanigans. There's things you can do, but in general, I agree. It's nice to have. It's nice to have a blocker, but as a mana dork, you're probably going to tap them, so they're not going to be open to block. And then if you're mono green, what are you going to fog? You're gonna keep your Land of War elf up, so you can block and then fog.
I guess you were going to chump that 1/1 very badly.
Oof. Trying up with the hordes.
Right. So for more, we'll consider it permanent ramp. We have our wood elves.
Yeah, the better
world,
Steve.
Right?
Yeah, the better Steve.
I wouldn't say he's better. Depending on the deck.
Yeah.
Like if you need like the land to come in, like now. And with wood elves specifically, it needs to be a forest. And if it is, it comes in untapped. But you also have the other variants that make them come in tapped, but you could go get any basic land, right?
Yeah. Sylvian Rangers, there's a bunch. Yeah, there's a bunch that come to mind.
These are really good if you're trying to blink them or reanimate them.
Yeah.
Or you need sacrifice fodder. That's what these are for. I wouldn't just run wood elves just to run wood elves unless you like need creatures.
Before I feel like there wasn't one for every color, but I know now that there are multiple for every color of forests. Forest mountains, forest plains. Right. So it's like wood elves now, I feel like has only gotten better.
Right. It's really like in your multicolored decks. Wood elves, for me, for the most part, goes and gets my blue source, my red source, my white source.
Yeah, it's beautiful and it's not tapped, so it's like
depending on like
get some.
Sometimes if you're running on a budget, you're running like the tap duels.
Yeah.
Or the snow ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Or your triomes.
I love the triomes.
Right.
Oh yeah, the mountain, forest, plains. They always have really pretty arts.
So let's talk about the big dorks.
Ooh, my favorite.
The big dorks. So Zavala, Heart of the Wild. She's a doozy. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, if its controller has the strongest creature, has the most power, they draw a card, and then for a green, you can tap her, add X mana of any combination of colors. I always forget that. Where X is the greatest power among creatures you control.
Monsters, absolute monsters.
If you're running Zavala, you need to have monsters.
Yep.
Huge, ugly, burly monsters.
Zavala is like one of my best cards in my Hydra deck. One of them.
If your strongest creature is like a 5/5, you probably shouldn't be running Zavala.
Still a good card, but I agree. Like in my Hydra deck, she exponentially gets bigger every time she gets used. So it's like the first X spell, the biggest creature is my commander, which is Gargos. So I get 8 mana. So I tap her for a green, I net 7.
And then you're typically drawing a card.
Exactly, and I'm getting card advantage. I'm playing a bigger Hydra, and now the next time I use her, my strongest is a 15/15. So now she adds 15 on top of I already could produce 15. So now I can make a 30/30 or more. And just continues and continues and continues.
Zavala becomes a whole engine when you have the ability to untap her and
Seaborn and there's so many ways to make her very gross.
Do not like Zavala. She needs to be killed on sight. So Zavala's pretty expensive, but we do have Somberwald Sage. It's 2 colors in the green for a human druid 0/1.
Super surprised it's a human.
Right. Add 3 mana of any one color. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells. So she's a 3 mana dork, right?
Yep.
Typically, who wants to run a 3 mana dork? But if you play her on turn 3, you hit your next land drop, you have 7 mana.
So it's like a turn back, but then it's like paying it forward. It's like
paying it forward.
Yeah, it's like a pay it forward.
Like, I couldn't imagine being able to drop a 7. Like, this needs to be killed, and people don't respect it, and they're just like, oh, what are you gonna do? No, I'm gonna put out a freaking Eldrazi with this amount of mana.
So here's I think one of my, like, the first talking point, like, I want to bring up. So while we're giving out, like, here's some great examples of creatures to give you mana, right? This shouldn't be, like, I see a lot of this, and so does Honorable. People will be building these decks, and they'll have every mana rock, and they got mana reducers, and then they're running every mana dork, and then they have nothing to dump all of that mana into.
What are you doing with all this mana?
Yeah.
Producing mana is fine, but if you're producing mana to produce more mana to produce more mana to produce more mana, what is the point?
Yeah, if you're not running Omnath, the mono green Omnath, there's zero. Like, I feel like in these examples, you're running 35 lands. You're like, man, I feel like I need a little bit more mana. So here's the thing. Do you want it in creatures? Why don't you check out these? Like, oh, okay, I could slot in a creature. Oh, I'm really creature heavy. I need to slot in one of the next ones we're going to talk about here.
Right. So most of these next ones are fine in your creature decks, but if you're running a creature deck, you probably want to be playing creature ramp as opposed to some of these, because you get additional synergy and it can get you there.
Yeah.
Right? So now we're talking about, like, your sorcery ramp spells. So you have your Nature's Lore, your Farseeks, your Cultivates, all these type of cards. They go and get you that permanent ramp.
Yep.
And put that land into play. But if you're like a spells deck and you're like green and blue or green and black and you're really not needing to play a lot of creatures, these are more for you.
Exactly. And again, like, a great example is Cultivate goes and gets you 2 basic lands. You put 1 on the battlefield, 1 to your hand. It's the 3-drop. Why would you run Cultivate if your commander costs 3 mana?
You don't need to.
You don't need to. You would instead run Farseek, because Farseek is still going to get you ahead in ramp, but you did it on turn 2. Now, don't get me wrong. This is all perfect turns, right. But why would you think about it? Like, oh, I need to play my commander turn 3. So why is Cultivate in slot?
Right. If you have a 3 mana commander, you're probably wanting to play a 1 mana dork.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's really important for you to play a 1 mana dork, because on turn 2, God hope that you hit your land drop. If you're if you're keeping a hand that only has 1 land and a dork, I don't know what you were thinking. But
yeah, what were you thinking?
What were you thinking? Right. These are the things you want to consider. Cultivate gets a lot of crap because it's inefficient. It's not a 2 mana ramp spell. Why would you run Cultivate?
And it's a sorcery.
You know how many times that I've ramped and didn't hit a land drop the next turn?
Yeah.
Did you really ramp?
Yeah, exactly. You turn 3, you have 3 mana or a dork or whatever it is, and you play your Cultivate, and you go and get that land and you get another one in hand. If you didn't hit that next land, technically you didn't ramp.
Right.
You're on curve.
But when you play Cultivate, you're sort of guaranteeing that next land is going to hit. Not only that, if you're a multicolored deck, I can go get a forest, and get the mountain I need, or get the island I need, or I can put, since I already have green because I was able to cast cultivate. If I'm in 3 colors, I could go get the other 2 colors that I need.
Yep. Or whatever your bulk is, just like if you have a double mana pips or in those colors. But I definitely feel like there needs to be thought process into the timing. I feel like just because ramp exists, it doesn't mean like I got to put all of it in there. Like there are tons of times to where like this, like, well, a card we have here, which is an amazing card, but I don't run it in every deck, right? Is Explore. You may play an additional land this turn, draw a card. It's technically ramp, right? Because it's like, if you had that land in hand, I'm now a land ahead, and I get a card draw to make up for me dumping 2 cards, because we'd be playing an additional land. Like you shouldn't be playing Explore if you didn't have 2 lands.
Right. If you're playing like 38 to 40 lands, Explore is more valuable to you because you're sort of almost guaranteed to hit that second land drop that it provides you. But if you're running like 32 lands, why are you playing?
Why is Explore in your deck when you don't have
Explore
enough?
so I could draw a card. Explore is not your card draw. I'm sorry. If you're running Explore for your cantrip, I don't know what you. I mean, maybe you know what you're doing, but sus.
I love it. I love Explore in my Goblin deck.
Please, please, for this next one. Farseek does not get you a forest.
Yeah, do not run Farseek in your mono green troll deck. Green.
I'm just gonna look at you and be like, you know that doesn't go get a forest, right? You just wasted 2 mana.
The beautiful part of Farseek is it's a 2-drop that lets you go get any named card. That's the beauty of Farseek. If you're a 5-color deck, Farseek is a delicious must. Absolute must. I can go get any of the triumphs. I can go get any dual land. Like, it's Farseek is like nature's lore, but like to the umpth degree.
Right. And then we have like Our Promise. Our Promise looks bad just looking at it. Search your library for up to 2 land cards. You may put onto the battlefield tap, then shuffle your library. Then if you control 2 more blah, blah, blah deserts, get a zombie. That's never happened.
Yeah, deserts are definitely not super popular.
That's never happened. You know what Our Promise does? It gets you your 2 best lands.
Yes, it goes and gets Urborg and Yavi Maya. It goes and gets World Tree and Maze of Ith. It goes and gets, Swarm Yard and Urborg. Like,
yeah, right. You just get your, you know what? I'm tired of this. So let me go get my utility lands, and we're gonna.
Shout out to the previous episode. What land would they go and get to protect themselves, Jay?
Strip mine.
You're not that.
That's a good way to protect yourself. Hey, man.
The best defense is the greatest offense.
Exactly. It was like, you know what? I'm gonna go ramp just to f you up. I am here to destroy you.
It's like, yeah, oh man, he's gonna go get Glacial Chasm. Nah, I got Dust Bowl.
But one thing we like to do in our play group is to say Hero. Hero is a all-star. Oh my goodness, I love this card. Most people don't know that it's an instant.
Or they don't play it like they know it's an instant.
Most people, I don't play it like it's an instant most times. Because you want to use that mana now.
They don't come in tapped, admittedly. It is beautiful.
So it puts you up in mana, and you get 2 basics untapped that you can more likely use that turn. So beautiful. So beautiful. So beautiful.
And then the other one. See, I feel like these ones don't get as much love because of the sacrifice. I feel like some people are standoffish. Like, no, I don't want to get rid of my land.
Hey, if your pod runs a lot of blue, you probably shouldn't run Barrow.
Right.
Because it's as an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice the land. I've seen it happen.
Yeah, counter
I'm gonna
spell.
cast Hero. Oh, you're behind in lands. Counter spell.
Oh. The painting. That doesn't sound very honorable.
I've never done that.
On record. On recording.
Off record.
In 4K. And then we have crop rotation.
It's not ramp.
It's not ramp. The reason why it's in this listing is just because
utility.
Yep.
Put your Batman cape on and go get your utility belt. That's
right.
why it's here. I think we should talk about the foremost weaker versions of ramp depending on your deck. If you're a big stinky green boy.
Oh, since we are on the
these
topic
don't
of
get
big,
played.
Yep, these are not good for big stinky mono green. They're not. Like, okay, one of them, in my opinion, is, but
one is the greatest.
it is. It's the greatest, and one of them is
And
like
you don't own it, and you're so mad.
salt, Himalayan salt. It's expensive. It's flaky, and I put it on everything. I'm mad I don't have it. It's the Great Hinge.
Oh, this goes in your beefiest of boys. Sometimes, even if your deck's not beefy, you still put the Great Hinge in.
It's still good. It's still good. It's definitely good in a big Creatures Matters deck. It definitely is. If you don't know, which you should be ashamed of yourself. 7 colorless green.
Wait.
You'll never cast it.
You're never casting. Wait, this spell calls X less, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control.
Then you tap it. You can add green, and then you gain 2 life.
Why did they tack on gain 2 life? I have no idea. It's so relevant though.
And then finally,
whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on it and draw a card. Oh my goodness.
it's everything. It's card draw. It's mana. It's life gain. It's +1/+1
I don't know what this
counters.
card doesn't do.
Oh, it's beautiful. And if played right, it's technically green. Like
It's usually green.
Ugh.
Even if it's 4 mana. Mm-hmm. It's still like your draw spell.
super incredibly high value.
And it gives you +1, makes your creatures bigger. It gains you life. It gives you 2 green. If you're able to cast it for green, you got that green back.
Immediately.
Oh my goodness.
You ready to hear not the greatest green ramp ever? Moss Diamond. Look at it. Just look at it.
It's part of the artifact. 2 mana, enters tapped for every color. Why?
It's the poor man's Power 9.
You're green. You're green. Why are you playing fucking artifact ramp?
Yeah, like if you were asking me about any other card color, the other diamonds aren't as terrible. I mean, they're still bad.
Some of them are great.
Yeah, some of them are good, but just Moss Diamond. You really needed to pay
you went
two mana
to the bottom of the barrel to cast the save.
very bottom. You wasted your turn 2. So let's just say you played it as early as possible, right? You played it. No, not even. We played it turn 1.
No,
you soul ringed
into Moss Diamond.
Moss Diamond.
Spit on you.
You technically, on turn 2, are on. I could have played Amanda Dork.
I could have played anything else.
Llanowar, and I have the same thing. Except I could have blocked.
We do have the other one, the Emerald Medallion. You spent $34 to reduce green spells. Maybe you're storming. That's the only thing that I could see.
I got lucky. I pulled one. I did. I pulled a green. An Emerald
What deck
Medallion.
is it in?
It's in my Hydra deck. But that's just so quick Hydra fact. Hydras with X in their cost. A lot of people don't know this. When things say reduce the cost of something, X's mana values are actually declared before they're cast. So if it's X green, then you say, I'm playing this for 10. That means it's assumed you're going to spend 8 colorless and green. So when you have a mana reducer, I say, I'm playing it for 10, but you actually only tapped it for 9. So the beautiful part about an Emerald Medallion and Gargos is or like Urza's Incubator, any of these examples, they're technically free mana into your Hydras or X Matters spells.
This is dumb. You're casting one Hydra a turn. You might as well have played a dork. I don't know what you're doing. This is why I said Emerald Medallion is really there if you're like storming.
Yeah.
Because you want to play a lot of things, so you get more than your one mana's for. If I cast 5 spells and you all have green in them, I just got a 5 mana reduction from everything I did.
I wish that there were, like in the cleric world, to where you can reduce by colored mana.
There are.
Ooh.
It's a, what is it, Phyrexian Beast or something like that. You can pay 2 life instead of playing 1 instance of green. And then whenever you cast a green spell, all creatures you control get +1/+1
I think
counters
that's
put on.
Defiler of Vigor?
Something like that.
Yeah, I think
every color's got the Phyrexian.
A Phyrexian substitute.
Yeah, whatever it does. So let's get to our last artifact. This one's better than Medallion and it's way cheaper. 3 mana. It's Ronus Monument.
Big snake.
Green creature spells, because you're casting creatures, cost 1 less. Whenever you cast a creature spell, target creature you control gets +2/+2 engage trample until end of turn.
Beautiful. Every green deck was like, me like less cost, more
I've seen
trample.
somebody get one shot by elves very quickly with this.
Yeah.
Like it looks not great.
It could be better in theory.
But you are, if you could cast a lot of creature spells, oh my goodness, something can get huge, and it does get trample.
Yeah,
and
this is
specifically, you don't have to be in green to play this.
Yeah, whenever you cast a creature spell, target creature gets 2/2 trample. Yeah, this in any deck that has some shenanigans to where blink back cast. Oh, look at that Metamite. I'm recasting. What is it, the one you always use? Omnithopter. This Omnithopter I'm recasting over and over and over again. Yeah, there you go. There's infinite trample.
You're going to die.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's going to die.
Because we want you to take them long turns, baby.
All right, let's get into the enchantments that can ramp you. Hey, remember we were talking about land enchants with Arbor Elf? We got Utopia Sprawl.
Oh yeah,
and
one
Wild
of the
Growth.
greatest. Yep, and Wild Growth, the two turn 1 dominators.
Green is like the only color that can ramp on turn 1.
Yeah, and not only that, this is like it's good.
It's good.
Like it's good ramp.
Like, jeez.
I'll get Utopia. I feel like is the best one. A green enchant forest. So there's the limitation, of course. So it has to be a forest. But when it enters the battlefield, choose a color. Whenever that forest is tapped, add 1 mana of the chosen color as well. There you go. Any 2-color decks out there that are green, anything else, hyper strong Utopia Sprawl.
Right. 3 mana commander. You need to be running Utopia Sprawl, Wild Growth, all the mana dorks you can, all the 1 mana dorks you can to get it out on turn 2 consistently.
Yep. We're talking speed strats and efficiency. You don't want to these cards, me and Honorable were talking about this as well. These cards are dead cards once you don't need them. So that's the part of the kind of like the redundancy here is like after you've got 15 lands out and you're not an X Matters.
I'm still ramping, guys. Look at me.
Yeah.
I'm still
Why are you
ramping.
running Miri's Wake? Like, why did you need Nyx Bloom Ancient? Like,
can we get to Zyndakar's Resurgence?
Oh, let's hit it.
I used to run this card when I used to be bad at Magic, and it made for fun times. So yeah, you're paying 7 mana to make more mana next turn. Essentially, what these type of cards do is you take your turn off, and you're getting the mana that you spent this turn next turn.
Are you trying to sell me a timeshare in Wakiki? Is this what it sounds like? Okay, you can't have a vacation this year, okay? But this timeshare, The Zendikar's Retreat. Okay, like I had to drop 7 mana toward. Don't get me wrong. Next turn I get 14. Great, but again, what are you doing?
How many
with
cards do you have in your hand? Well, Zendikar's Resurgence is different because you do get to draw cards whenever you cast creature spells, right? How many cards do you have in your hand that you got to Zendikar's Resurgence and you have things to cast that equal up to 14 mana? If you are not using all of that mana next turn, you just wasted your time. This is easy, like, hey, I'm gonna spend 1 mana to blow this up in green and white. For blue, they're bouncing this back to your hand. Haha, you got Time Walk before your turn came. You spent your whole turn casting this. Please, 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 unless you are like specifically trying to troll yourself or your opponents, do not run these.
I'm going to give you one example of a 7-drop. Just one example. Kindred Dominance. Everybody loves tribal decks. It's really common. 5 colorless, black, choose a creature type, destroy the creatures that aren't the chosen type. That's what 7 mana buys you. 7 mana buys you one-sided board wipes. Those are hard to come by. And it's like, what would you rather have? You got no benefit. When you cast a creature, if you have mana left over, you get a card draw. Or I saved all my dragons and destroyed the rest of the board.
Right. For 5 mana in blue, you can take an extra turn.
Yeah, exactly. Like when you start putting brass tacks to mana costs, 7 mana is a lot. Like it needs to be impacted. What would you rather have? Zendikar's Resurgence or Coma the World Serpent?
Would you rather spend 7 mana on the Great Henge?
Oh, without even. Oh, I'm so salty. It's the Great Salt. That's what it really is. It's the Great Salt.
Right. Okay. Let's get into the other two. We have Exploration. You can sort of play this wherever, unless you don't have enough lands.
Yeah. Again, low mana.
It's pretty good.
Low mana, high lands. Exploration's your best friend. You play additional lands.
Sometimes it's really inefficient not to play this, and you're not hitting both your land drops, or you're not fetching, or you can play lands from the graveyard. But sometimes Exploration gets you ahead just enough that you can squeeze out value from the other cards that you have. But I would go ahead.
I was gonna say, Explore, I feel like is a bad version of Exploration, right? Because I feel like Exploration pairs with other things really well, like land tax. You know what I mean? Like when you get something that's feeding you lands and you're flooded, Exploration's like your best friend.
Man, if you play Exploration and land tax, you're not going to be land taxing for long.
You won't be, but you will get ahead very fast.
You'll be ahead once, and then you'll never get land tax ever again.
Yeah, you got those 3 planes that one time.
So, Cryptolith Right. Oh my God. I remember when this card was like $3 when we were playing Standard, and I thought it was bad.
You did. I actually almost ran it in everything, and you would yell at me every time I'd take it out of the previous deck and put it into the new one.
In Commander, this thing is a freaking all-star.
Powerhouse.
Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm just going to make all of my creatures dorks for whatever color.
Yeah. And this doesn't even matter if you're not running multicolor. You just now have access to just everything.
I just now have access. Please do not play this and you have 4 creatures out. No, you need to be mirror time or goblin time. Maybe you're a green-red goblin deck. I don't know. That actually sounds sort of funny.
Oh, I bet it'd be powerful. There's a red-green goblin commander too. Right. Or like a Chatterfang deck. Like Chatterfang with Cryptolith Right's best friends. Look at all these squirrels. Oh, look, now they all tap for mana. Or hey, look at a Beledros. Look at a Beledros deck. Same thing. Oh, I make pests every turn. Oh, look, now those pests tap for mana. Oh, I'm playing a World Serpent. Good old like Coma. Any of these that make you a whole bunch of little cheep creatures. Oh my goodness, Cryptolith Right goes off.
Let me put there's a lot of cards that do this now, but there used to not be. Cryptolith Right was really the first. Let me add an addendum. Ashaya, Heart of the Wild. I think it's Heart of the Wild. Am I thinking of Savala? I am thinking Ashaya, 5 mana, star toughness, power and toughness equal to the amount of lands you control. All creatures you control are forest. It's not a rant spell.
It's technically not.
It is a wombo combo piece. There is so many ways to combo with that card. I do not even want to get into it. It is gross. If you have landfall shenanigans,
just land matters anything,
and you play creatures, please play Ashaya. She makes everything dumb. Next thing you know, your Lotus Cobra is making you mana every time you cast a creature, and if you find a way to get haste, you can do dumb things. Please, please, please. If you can, play Ashaya in your landfall decks.
Yep.
I'm telling you, it is the nastiest card. I have like 6 copies of this thing.
Oh, it's a go-to, and then it itself gets huge. That's the beauty, because its power and toughness are equal lands, and now, oh no, look, all my creatures are lands. Again, same concept. Chatterfang deck. I'm just gonna, because that's a great green.
Non-token.
Ooh,
non-token.
Caught me. I was trying to cheat again.
I'm trying to cheat. He don't know how to read.
You know I can't read, boy.
All right. These are sort of like honorable mentions. Hey, if you have the money to play Gaia's Cradle.
Oh, it's not that bad. It's only, $1,000, $99.99.
Right. If you have the money to, you already own a house, you have a really nice car, you already sent your kids to college, and you want to waste $1,000 on a Gaia's Cradle, I will beat you to death and then rip up your Gaia's Cradle and then proxy one just to make you mad.
Yeah, I will sell a Gaia's Cradle to then crowdfund the money for your hospital bill. Yeah. It is. Don't get me wrong. If you don't know it, this is an old card. It's on a non-print list.
It should be banned.
It should be banned. I think the only reason it's not is because they still want its price to be high, and that is Gaia's Cradle. Legendary land has tap, add a green to your mana pool for each creature you control. There's literally no downside to it. It's that simple.
In CDH, they'll have like 3 creatures and they'll play Gaia's Cradle. That's how good it is.
Yep.
You don't even need a ton of creatures.
If it came in tapped, I feel like it would be more fair. And even then, because you have Circle of Dreams Druid, that's an honorable mention. It's green for an elf. It's 2/2.
It's Gaia's Cradle.
And then it does the same thing. You tap it and you get Gaia's Cradle's effect.
But people are more likely to kill it.
Oh yeah, it's a kill on sight. Gaia's Cradle, meanwhile, doesn't enter tapped. So that would be like Circle of Dreams Druid had haste.
Had haste and wasn't a creature.
Yeah, and couldn't be targeted easily. Yeah, like incredible. But we have 2 honorable mentions that are not $1,000. But they're not nearly as good.
Dryad Arbor. If you don't know, it is a land creature forest dryad 1/1. It is green. That's what it says.
Yep.
It is green.
And it technically counts as your land for
It
turn.
does count for your land drop for turn. What this is usually used for, if you have any of the green effects that put a creature onto the battlefield. What is it? Green Sun Zenith?
Yeah.
You Green Sun Zenith for 0 and Dryad Arbor.
Or this is where you start to get into the weird bouncing engine pieces, because it's technically a creature, it's technically a land, and it's like it is affected by more than one thing in some really odd ways.
Yeah, that Ashaya shenanigans, it can
Yeah.
Except for like it that's all it does.
And then lastly we have Castle Garenbrig. A must include. This is what I need to say this again. If you aren't running powerful creatures, why are you running Great Hinge? If you're not being creature specific, why are you running Castle Garenbrig?
I might need 6 mana for something.
It has
specifically for creatures,
right?
Or activated abilities of creatures.
Could you? But can you?
I need it.
Are you sure?
I need it.
All right, you can have it.
I remember I saw a guy at a card shop. He used Castle Garenbrig. He was playing the green jelly bean, and he tucked his mana past the turn. He went to his next turn, and he tried to use all his mana for this spell that wasn't a creature. And I'm like, hey, remember, 6 of that green mana can only be used for creatures and creature abilities. And he's like, oh yeah.
Just remember, it may produce a lot of mana, but you gotta finish reading.
It really only ramps you 1 because it's 2 green to activate, and then so you're tapping 4 lands in it to produce 6 green mana.
Yep, it's nice. Like if you were going to have to spend the mana, like great, it saved you. There's no downside, but it's not like a basalt monolith, right? It's not something like that. Like this isn't netting you a whole bunch. It's just here's a little extra.
It's in your land base, so it's easy include. I almost forgot. We were talking about mana doublers. Nyx Blue Ancient is a mana tripler. Probably the only one that's worth it. It triples your mana,
and it's a big body,
and it doesn't just triple your mana, right? It says if a permanent would produce mana, produce triple of that mana, right?
Mana dorks.
So for Castle Garenbrig, it instantly makes you 18 mana. Your treasure tokens crack for 3. Like Nyx Plume Ancient makes like, ooh, I'm gonna double my... No, bro, I need to triple my mana. And it's 7 mana. It's 7 mana.
These cards, and I stand by this, I know you stand by this. We want you to have long turns, but we also want you to be able to win, okay? The key here is a lot of these big powerhouse cards, you normally play them, and then they set you up to win the game. So please keep this in mind. You don't just want to turn all your decks into whatever color they are. Good stuff. I get that it works sometimes.
So boring.
But it becomes boring. It does.
Green dot deck. Okay,
yeah, they become too cookie cutter, and then I promise you, you won't have as much fun. You won't get anywhere near it.
The good thing about your green dot deck is you can change your commander to whatever you want it to be,
and it just works. Yep, 100%. Well, guys, this is the very beginning part of all of this. So we're touched on some green ramp today. Now, these are not all includes, so I think we can make some more lists or some links if you guys would like. We're gonna try to have some more behind the scenes stuffs for you guys.
The last thing I want to mention, and this is very important, the reason why we talked about ramp first is that ramp and card draw are linked internally.
Yes.
If
can't
you
have one or the other.
A lot of ramp, you are gated by the amount of cards or things that produce cards for you. You are gated by that. If I'm able to draw 20 cards, I am now gated on how many cards that I can play by how much mana that I can produce. So when you're building your deck, it is essential that, hey, if I can produce a lot of mana, guess what you need to do? You need to have effects that draw you cards.
Yep, you need something to spend it on.
It is so important. I can't tell you how many times I see people flood out and
for nothing.
And it's just like, yeah, I can produce 46 mana, but I have no way to draw cards. On the other token, this happened to blue players all the time. Or when you start getting into spinning your wheels, yeah, you can draw a lot of cards, but if drawing cards doesn't affect your board state, you are doing nothing.
I draw into a draw card to draw a card to draw a card to draw a card to draw a card
to draw. You're not doing anything. You're not winning the game.
Yep.
The only time that helps you at all is if you're like specifically looking for like your combo piece.
Yeah.
Right. That's the only time like drawing mindless amounts of cards works. In regular Magic, drawing an asinine amount of cards only leads to you having to discard those cards at the end of your turn. Please, if you take one thing from me, card draw, ramp, linked.
Honorable. Out.
Peace, bitch.
Thanks again for turning into Long Turn Larry, guys. I'm the vicious scumbag.
And I am your honorable sensei, and we are getting out of here. Peace.
Peace.